Hillary has been lengthening her excuses as to why she lost the election. She didn't really lose the election. It was stolen from her by, I think it's up to 24 different excuses she has now. Number 24 is content farms in Macedonia. And as I said, my grandfather was a Macedonian content farmer, and we often think about, gathering on the porch and recalling the old days on the Macedonian he never thought that the old content farmers he left behind in Macedonia would one day steal the U.S. presidential election. They are gnarled, hard-working Macedonian peasants, and the way they were able to reach out and steal the election.
The rollout of vaccines in Macedonia is, not happening. Though Serbia, which Zoran Zaev has insulted time and again, offered to donate vaccines to Macedonia. When will Macedonians be able to get vaccinated? Will they want to get vaccinated? In the meantime, the government of Zoran Zaev arrests priests, the Orthodox faithful, and more over the holidays. And more wiretaps on Zoran Zaev are forthcoming. We'll discuss all of this and more on this episode of the Macedonian Content Farmers Podcast. I'm Jason Miko, coming to you from the foot of the Catalina Mountains, back home in Oro Valley, Arizona.
And this is Cvetin and still here in Skopje, Macedonia.
I'd rather be there, to be honest. It's hard to explain why, but I feel so much more alive when I'm there, and maybe it's too much alive. I don't know, but I really enjoyed my trip there. If folks listening to this we didn't get a chance to get together, sorry. We'll do it again sometime soon, hopefully. But really had a great time seeing you and others there, and I'm looking forward to my next trip. But in the meantime, there is still plenty of news to talk about. This is the Macedonian Content Farmers Podcast, episode 99. Cvetin, we're gonna have to figure out something special for the next one, whenever that might be, next week or something like that. I don't know what we're going to do, but we'll talk offline. We're recording this on Wednesday, January 20, 2021. In about 20 minutes, President Kamala Harris will be sworn. Joe Biden will be sworn in as president. Kamala Harris will be president shortly thereafter.
Do you think he'll even know?
We're going to save. What's that?
Will he even know he's being sworn in? What's the commotion here? Get off my lawn. Oh, you yapper. Actually, there won't be a commotion there, except for the police and the army who they're waiting so they don't try to kill him during the... Seriously, is there anybody? Yeah. I'm not watching on television. Is anybody there?
No. Is what?
Is anybody actually attending this thing? I'm just turning on my TV.
Well, it's the traditional on the western side of the Capitol, which is where inaugurations have been done since Ronald Reagan.
But no crowd, just the deep state.
No, maybe a few people and whatnot.
Just the people relieved that Trump is out, like the congressmen
yes. And the media. There will be much wailing and gnashing of teeth amongst the media now, because they want to have Trump around, but they don't want to have Trump around. So anyway, we'll discuss all of that and implications for Macedonia and the region under President Bidenopoulos, as he calls himself amongst his Greek friends, at a later date. But for now, I guess let's start with the vaccines, because there's going to be a lot we want to talk about in the wiretaps. Serbia has donated, I think it was 8,000 doses. Is that correct?
Yeah, they're going to give us 8,000 of the good ones. They have
of the good ones. What are the good ones?
Well, listen, the Russians and the Chinese are going around offering their stash, and you can get it by the boatload. I read somewhere, I think the Serbs have like 1 million or something like that of the Chinese and the Russian vaccines combined, and they're actually offering their populace the choice. You want the Pfizer's or the, Moderna, what's the other one?
Would you like the red pill or the blue pill?
There are two Western vaccines, right? And there's a Russian and a Chinese, so they're offering people to register for whichever their ideological and geopolitical preferences. And I think the Ruskies are leading there. I think more people want to have the Sputnik than the Western ones. But they have like huge quantities of the Chinese and the Russian one, and very few of the Western ones, but still enough to give Zaev like 8,000 doses, which is hilarious because, Zaev...
That's 4,000 people. 8,000 doses is 4,000 people, basically.
Well, enough for like the main, like a few token pictures of politicians getting vaccinated, and then like covering the people who are actually handling sick patients. It should be enough for like the first decent
PR
size
campaign.
first wave of jabs. But Zaev has completely failed to provide any other vaccine like from on his own from like proper sources. He refused the Russian vaccine, and the funniest part was that Bulgaria promised vaccines like 10% of its entire stash, and then went back on the promise. So as you just said, Zaev is now forced to take the Pfizer, 8,000 Pfizer vaccines from Serbia, which he literally threatened with a colored revolution. In the first days since he was in power, he called Vučić a nationalist and said, implied very strongly that he will be part of future protests against Vučić. So that's
exported from
beautiful.
Macedonia. Yeah. Now, what about our friends in the European Union, which is standing in solidarity and shoulder to shoulder with Macedonia and all the other countries? What has the European Union been able to give to Macedonia in terms of vaccines?
Nothing on the vaccines. They get testy and angry when you ask them. They get defensive. They insist hey, we gave you money before at the start of this thing, and we gave you some ventilators, and now the commissioner is talking about some mechanism, but I'm not sure the EU is really in a position to do this. I think you apply as a country, and then it goes through some mechanism. There were some reports that even the EU was seriously undersupplied itself, the EU member states, except for Germany, I think, which I think kind of hoarded bunches of these. I mean, I'm not really an expert on any of this, but the fact is that we're the last country.
You don't want to be.
Yeah. But I mean, I haven't been following it too much. But the thing is that Serbia is vaccinating en masse. Bulgaria and Greece are, I think, in their third week of vaccinating their populace. Albania was able to get some of it, and the prime minister there was bragging that he was the most nimble and active and agile in. He used the word, I was just a beggar. I managed to beg out enough vaccines. And he was saying Bulgaria was going to give Macedonia 100 vaccines. They said they were going to give us more, but didn't. And
wow.
Yeah. And then he said, and they didn't even get this. And he said, I got mine from a EU member state surrounded by Balkan countries, but I can't tell you which one. So it's probably Greece. But people are saying, hey, it would be funny if the Bulgarian vaccines went to Albania instead of Macedonia. I don't know why the Bulgarians changed their minds, but it's another huge embarrassment for Zaev that he was denied everywhere, and now eventually had to turn to Serbia, which he literally declared as an enemy, but which is happy to play a role of listen, we are your only friend in the region that you have.
Wow. Well, all right. Well, I guess we'll just follow that and see what happens and see what is there a kind of, here in Arizona or and here in the States, it's state by state. So we got 50 states, so 50 different ways of doing this, and then it's by county. So here in Pima County, we've got, I think it's 1A, 1B, 1C. I don't know why they do that. Why they just don't do 1, 2, 3, 4 in terms of the groups. And you have to register for it, and so far it's not rolling out very well. Is there I'm assuming there's a priority list there of who gets it first, starting with doctors, nurses, hospital workers, first responders, teachers, maybe? Yes, no?
They're talking about this, and it's ridiculous. They say, okay, so the healthcare minister will be the first one, and then Zaev will be among the first. They're discussing who would get it, but there is no vaccines. I mean, it's a mute point. There's no point saying I want it or I don't want it, I'm refusing it, or I need it first. We're not having this debate, do we go with the old people or the teachers and nurses first? Because, there's no point, arguing over something which we don't have at the moment.
Yeah. Wow. All right. Well, we'll wait and see on that. Kind of our next subject here is closely related to that. And And I have to say, so I saw that the government lifted the ban on restaurants and bars. Not lifted it, but moved the times back. It was when I was there. It was 6 p.m., meaning you had to get all your business done and then go visit people in their homes, which is fine. Now it's 9 p.m. So obviously the government's stated reason was that they wanted to keep people during the holidays, New Year's, Badnik, Božić, Vodica, etc., from gathering and congregating and things like that. So that's why they moved the hours for the restaurants and bars to 6 p.m. Now it's back to 9 p.m. But in the meantime, the government was running around arresting priests and Orthodox faithful and canceling holidays and things of that nature. What more can you tell us? How was that received?
Yeah, it was a complete disaster. I mean, it was. They're inaugurating Biden at the moment. He's saying something.
According to Microsoft on my computer here, it's 9:48 a.m. So that means it's 11:48 a.m. It's another 13 minutes before he becomes president. So
yeah, he's got bulletproof glass all around, and
of course, I know we have to do an aside here. Washington D.C. is now is surrounded by walls to protect the politicians from the people.
Yeah. They should just blow up the bridges and be done with it.
Well, the bridges are all closed right now, I'm sure. So
yeah.
Anyway, back on arresting the Orthodox priests.
The drug addict son is on. Anyway, back to the priests. We are actually, the government is actively and systematically using the corona excuse to go after traditions, Christian traditions, which are a big deal, this part of the year. This is the busiest time of the year for, Christmas and, it's holiday after holiday. And they've been systematically banning anything that can, be seen through as part of the Christian tradition, while not doing the same thing with the Mass Friday prayers for the Muslim community. So it's very noticeable. So first there was the burning of the fires on Badnik, like a few days before Christmas, Orthodox Christmas under the Julian calendar. Villages and neighborhoods gather together and light a fire, and people are drinking mulled wine and raki and just hanging out in the open. Mm-hmm. So last year, people were pressured not to do this for air pollution reasons, and to an extent it worked. Mm-hmm. And it was a pitiful, a sad spectacle, to lose this tradition. This year it's the corona, even though, as I said, it's in the open. People can wear masks, and people largely wear masks. So this was banned, and a couple of villages did it anyway. In one or in two instances, I think, the police raided them and arrested like a dozen people just for sitting out in the open around the fire. So then days later, they arrested a priest in a village near Tetovo for holding a Christmas mass. And this is notable. This is close to the village where this is Tetovo is obviously mixed Albanian, Macedonian region. I think it was close to the village where we had this Islamist go to Vienna and shoot up the city.
Yeah.
So going after Macedonians in this region always is a interethnic issue. Is a highly charged political issue. It's a notable thing because it's like a symbol of pressuring Macedonians in a majority Albanian region. You always have to assume that the order to do the raid was done by ethnic Albanian police commissioner in the region.
Right.
So then we had Vivchani. They have a huge carnival, which is hugely, internationally famous. We would have
weird.
Folks like, it's very weird. I've never been there for the carnival. It's cold and it's weird. It's not for everybody. It's a lovely place. I was just there for the first time in my life this year. And this mountainous village, Macedonian village, largely surrounded by Albanian and Muslim Macedonian villages, which famously resisted the communist police in 87 when they wanted to divert these beautiful like waterfall-like springs toward a complex of villas which was being built for the communist apparatchiks on Lake Ohrid nearby. So the entire village protested this attempt to capture their waters and divert them. And they were attacked by huge police deployment with electric batons. It was reported worldwide, like there are Reuters, BBC clippings of the incidents. And it really contributed to waking up like a resistance movement in Yugoslavia. It was the final years of Yugoslavia. Vivčani declared its independence. It was mostly as a joke, as a prank, as part of this carnival. But they would issue their passports. It was like very similar to what other regions.
Did they have their own money as well?
Yeah. They had a currency issued.
Yeah.
So it was a big deal. Like people would, I was obviously too young, but it's remembered as one of the first serious resistances to the regime and blows to the regime. And now we had a new iteration of this incident. So they decided to have the carnival. Anyway, people are wearing masks because it's a carnival,
right?
Of course. And really a huge police force, riot police with batons, with shields, with everything descends on the village and starts dispersing the people. They arrested a number of them. They were very forceful in dispersing the people and ordering them home. Everybody was wearing masks in the procession. Nearly everybody was wearing masks in the crowd. It's again a thing that is done in the open, in the village streets. So, infection danger zero. But, the police had to do a show of force. And the carnival itself obviously continued. After the raid, the next day they held the procession again. This is on the day of Saint Basil.
All right.
So it has a strong Christian and also a pagan style heritage. People trace it back to like pre-Christianity, like thousands of years ago. This is a hugely old event. Many of the masks are of spirits, of animals, and stuff. But many of the masks are political. So it's very likely that the raid was done for political purposes, because obviously you always mock current events, and there is no more current event than Bulgaria. In the past, they would mock Greece once they were in trouble with Islamists who threatened to kill them to attack the carnival because they had a mask of a Muslim and I think a pig somewhere around there, something like Charlie Hebdo style. That's the nature of the carnival.
Right.
And obviously this year it was Bulgaria. There was Karakachanov.
I was gonna ask. Not only did whoever dressed up as Karakachanov did that person have the mask, but also the body mask to go with it.
Yeah, you want to be authentic. They had a guy dressed up as a Nazi Bulgarian.
Oh, lovely.
And because tensions were high after the police raid, they had the Bulgarian flag burnt. And now police is trying to, I think they said they identified the people who were masked, who were doing this, and now they want to prosecute them for, what's it called, derogating the reputation of a foreign country. There's actually a law, or they're making up a law on this, or some kind of like a hate speech mandate. They're going to go with something like that. But they're threatening the people with years in prison. After Bulgaria, the ambassador, the government officially made a huge fuss over this. So the police may have been there not only to kill a tradition, but also to prevent an act of hate speech against Bulgaria, and failed miserably, and very likely provoked it the next day. So we had banned the koledari, which is our version of trick-or-treating on Christmas. Kids go around the houses, sing songs, and get candy. And finally now we banned, the government banned the Vodici Epiphany event, on the baptism of Christ, where priests bless the rivers and lakes, and people jump into the water and try to retrieve a cross. And we saw this in Ohrid. In Ohrid, people resisted. There were dozens of people who gathered to jump into the lake, and many more who were there to observe the event. And police actually literally came and, can I see your papers? Routine. They did this to the people, to the worshippers celebrating Epiphany. So, an all-out attack on traditions and cultures of Christianity in the country.
Well, here's something to think about. So, the United States State Department every year issues a report on religious freedoms in all the countries around the world. I don't know if it issues a report on itself. Probably not. But, and that information is all compiled by the embassy there in Macedonia and at other embassies in other countries. So I'm wondering if the arrest of priests and Orthodox faithful and others, I wonder if that will be recorded and put in that report from the State Department next year. I have my doubts,
Yeah.
but I don't know, it might be a question, might be worth asking the Kale and Kate if that is going to be included in there or not, and as well as what they think about the idea of arresting priests and Orthodox faithful at this time, when that seems to be the only group that is targeted, is the Orthodox. On the flag burning issue, it's kind of like, I think here in America we're bigger proponents of free speech than Europeans or frankly anybody else. I've never, slightly aside, I've never understood this thing in other countries. I think Germany certainly has it. Holocaust denial is a crime. If somebody wants to deny the Holocaust, that just means they're a stupid idiot. But it shouldn't be a crime. I don't get that. And my whole point on this, flag burning, fine. I don't, that's fine. We got idiots here in America that want to burn the American flag. Okay, well, the answer to so-called hate speech, and I don't think there is such thing as hate speech. I think there is hateful speech, which is a much longer topic to get into. But the answer to all of that is more speech, and it's free speech. Especially on the Holocaust denial stuff, talking about people that want to deny it is answering them with the truth and the facts. But I think the whole thing, once you start banning speech, whether it is verbal or written, oral or written, or actions like burning flags, where does it end? And who gets to decide what is hate speech? Because hate speech, of course, so-called hate speech, is subjective. It is not objective. How do you define it? Nobody's ever given me a good answer on that because they can't. Because there is no good answer on it. It is what the current ruling authorities say that it is. That, and we have a lot of people in the world, especially in the West, who are snowflakes and think that they have a right not to be offended. But there is no right not to be offended. Too bad. Now, with children, that's different. On school grounds and things like that where children gather, speech can be regulated because children are not yet fully formed in their behaviors and their manners and their mores, etc. They're still being brought up by parents, etc. So you do regulate speech with children. With adults that get offended by this stuff are losers, morons, whatever you want to call them, etc. And of course, snowflakes. End of diatribe on that.
I mean, it is in poor taste. I do a lot of angry stuff on Twitter, but I wouldn't go as far as burn a flag. But I would also absolutely not prosecute a person who would do this, especially in the confines of something that is literally declared like a free speech zone. Yeah. It's a carnival. You're supposed to be masked and supposed to tell people exactly how you feel about them. And why wouldn't you want to have a portion of the population, a view represented, especially in these circumstances, much more honest than people making faces at you and assuring you in their love and how much they appreciate you, but in fact, thinking God knows what about you and acting behind your back. So this is more honest. This is in your face, and it should be a good indicator that we have a problem and maybe a change of policy or approach would be warranted. Otherwise, you get just like insincere friendship or sincere criticism. You can pick insincere flattery or sincere criticism. You can pick
exactly.
what you want in in this situation. And but the embassies here, the Greek and now unfortunately the Bulgarian, they work on putting a list of things they're offended by, and so they can be ready to go at any moment when they want to block.
Of course.
I mean, I remember what the Greeks would do to Gruevski in the past. They would even plant. They would literally plant like an incident. So Gruevski is attending the anniversary of Goca Delchev's death or something, and like 10 minutes before the event, some guy nobody knows who he is walks up to the monument, puts a map of United Macedonia,
Oh, I remember
which
that.
Goca fought
At,
for,
Svatispas.
and then disappears, and nobody like wants to be bothered to remove it, and pictures are taken, and the next day Greeks are outraged that this is, this was before the NATO summit, and they had like a specially printed flyer that was distributed in the Bucharest summit in NATO when Macedonia was hoping to join, with English language explanation why this is irredentism. Look at this picture. So, this was obviously completely staged and organized by the Greek embassy to have to raise an issue before the summit. I'm not saying that Bulgaria staged the thing in Vivchany, but other than with their stupidity in the way they're handling the relations with Macedonia, hoping that Zaev will deliver on something, and then even Zaev not being ready to do this, and then they're being angry and promising vaccines, and then taking them back, and it's a bloody mess.
Yeah, I've never burned a flag, but I remember back in 1979 and early 80 when the Ayatollah Khomeini was still around before he went to hell, and we had that issue with him and the U.S. hostages. I had a dartboard in my room, and I had a big picture of him on the dartboard, and I would use it to try and nail him in the head. So anyway, all right, let's move on to wiretaps and on transcripts and things like that. We've had a lot of those over the the past 2 decades essentially, and they were used to bring down Gruevski and Vumero Dopomene. There's a lot out there about Zoran Zaev and his regime. For whatever reason, it doesn't seem to stick, and I think that's because, in part, he is protected by the U.S. Embassy in one way or another, as well as the other embassies. But as I understand it now, Zoran Bojanovsky, the journalist, published a transcript of a conversation that allegedly he held with Zoran Zaev in mid-2016. Parts of this, I understand, have been leaked to the public in the past. But what can you tell us more about that and Zaev's deal with Sasho Mijalkov?
Yeah, this was basically now common knowledge that Sasho Mijalkov, who was the hated figure of the Gruevski regime, second only to Nicola himself.
Hated
But
by
he's
the
now,
left and the colorful revolutionaries.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. He was a hate figure, accused of every sort of crime and corruption, from the Smilkovsko Lake massacre in 2012, the Good Friday massacre, from the attack on Kumanova, like he engineered it himself and whatnot, killing journalists, all of these lies that the left was spreading. And it's, it's a given fact now that he's working with Zaev. He's in business with Zaev. His trials are getting nowhere. He has helped secure the 8 votes from Vumero proper for the Zaev name change, and these were on top of the several other people elected to parliament through Vumero from other parties. So 8 people from the proper Vumero who voted for the name change were handled by Mijalkov, apparently. Interestingly, we discussed the storming of the parliament. Mijalkov was the security chief of Vumero, appointed by Vumero of the country for so long, and you can't storm the parliament without Mijalkov being involved. And the way the whole thing turned out is a perfect excuse for Zaev to attack the opposition as vandals, as what are you now in the U.S.? Secessionist, white nationalist,
White supremacist,
terrorists,
secessionists,
yeah,
etc. Just
blah
ask
blah.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez; she'll tell you.
Yeah, girl named after two ruthless conquerors and and colonizers. Anyway, at least one was a colonizer for anyway. So delivering this beautiful packaged present to the left to reinstall the communist police state from the communist era in Macedonia, which we now have. So Mijalkov is working with Zaev. That's
Right.
understood by now. He's trying to create a faction in Vemera, trying to bring down Mickovsky. He's getting all these corrupt former mayors who became rich by selling plots of land in schemes similar to the Zaev schemes around him, and he used to hold like press conferences in front of Vemera, demanding the resignation of Mickovsky, etc., etc. So now the leaked tape recorded by Verushevsky in 2016, when it was still, neither here nor there. Vemera had beaten off the colored revolution, but has agreed to hold elections, which they would eventually win, but not by enough, and Zaev would form the government after the incident in the parliament. So, but at the moment, Vemera were still sitting pretty in the country, but they were afraid of the coming Clinton administration and said, okay, let's hold elections and beat them and renew the mandate and meet Clinton on those terms. We assume that Hillary will win, not Trump. Not that Trump did anything for us or anybody else in the world, but except provide some entertainment. But let's not get off topic. Oh, one of the guardsmen just made the sign of the cross. I think, I think that's dangerous. He should be removed now.
Dear. Yeah, it's showing it's a sign of faith. That's illegal now in the United States.
Yeah, I hope he was the one who issued dummy ammunition. And so Zaev and Verushevsky are talking. The younger Verushevsky, Alexander Verushevsky, who is a crazed gangster-style person, the son of Zoran Verushevsky, who is the former Secret Service chief long before Mijalkov. Zoran Verushevsky is involved in two wiretapping scandals, the one in 2000, which sparked the war in 2001, helped spark the war, and contributed to the toppling of then Vemera Georgievsky government and brought SDSM to power, and he did it again with the Colored Revolution, again to bring down Vemera and bring SDSM to power. So Zoran Verushevsky is Zaev's security advisor, but his son is apparently in business with Mijalkov, and he comes to Zaev, recording him secretly, which Zaev should have guessed, and telling him, listen, I come bearing message from Mijalkov. We have exhausted each other in the Colored Revolution with the wiretaps. You plan to publish some more stuff. Mijalkov is going after you with investigations of corruption in your municipality. We can end this. We can start working toward a deal. And Zaev is initially like, I don't want to do this. I have more tapes. He's implying that he has some tapes of sexual depravity involving Gruevsky, but that he will not publish them. Verushevsky tells him, this is stupid, this is nothing, this is crazy. Zaev is angry that his municipality is being audited. Verushevsky tells him, well, what do you expect after all you've done to them? They both discuss how Zaev says, I'm protected under the umbrella of the Americans, the international interference in the Colored Revolution and in the breaking down of the Gruevsky government. Verushevsky tells him it's the British who are running the show. They know everything before it's going to happen. So, he's implying it's the British embassy or the British Secret Service running the country. And in the end, James Bond. I mean, total degenerates, both of them, both services. And in the end, Zaev agrees, and he starts dictating his demands, first among them an end to investigations of corruption in the town hall of Strumica, which he was twice accused of huge corruption there, and where he built his money. The tape proves that what we now know is that what was declared the worst part of the Gruevski government, Sasho Mijalkov and his businesses and corruption and alleged crimes, etc., is now firmly part of the Zaev regime, and they're just continuing, that he continues to play practically the same role. And they order their steak well done, which is another punishable offense on the recording.
Oh, no. The steak should always be medium rare or flame-kissed.
I mean, I don't know what to say.
I mean, that's all very depressing, frankly, what you just had to say, and exposing that. It's a bloody soap opera is what it is, a long-running soap opera. And, you know, the various embassies are aware of all this, and, of course, if Macedonia is to join the EU, which probably won't, you have to clean up all this, but not to say that there isn't corruption in the EU countries and in the EU itself. We've seen that many times over the past 20, 30 years. You know, how do you clean this up? How do you get leaders and statesmen into positions of power in Macedonia instead of petty politicians? I don't know. I don't have an answer to that right now. I'm just kind of talking off the top of my head, but ultimately that's what Macedonia needs if it is going to pull out of this cycle of downward despair and destruction. I guess we'll see. So this was let's see, Zoran Bojanovsky. It was a transcript he published today that talked about a lot of this stuff, correct?
Yeah, he eventually published the leak in full. The thing is, this was previously it was published. This is the same tape where Zaev and Verushevsky are talking, where Zaev says, "Listen, I run the colored revolution. All these Soros NGOs, they work for me." So this was previously published in bits and pieces, some little snippets of it, and now he published the whole thing, and it's not widely shared. Obviously, the Zaev guys are silent about this. They don't want to talk about this or even think about it. The VMR are also like, I mean, this is now what everybody knows this. It's apparent, obviously, what good is this going to do to us at the moment. But Bozinovsky, he's like a crazy journalist here.
You got a lot of
extortionist. Yeah. So he's in some trial now with Zaev. He was accusing him of corruption, which is, very correct. I mean, he's right on the issue. And Zaev is now suing him for slander and complaining that his children, this is Zaev's now go-to explanation, my children are crying at home when somebody accuses me of corruption. I have to sue you. I mean, it's ridiculous.
How old are
they went to court. The son is 16, daughter 20-something.
So she's an adult. He's nearly an adult, and they're Crimea River.
I think. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Useless.
But Bozinovsky was taken to court by Zaev, so he said, "Listen, I'm going to publish this for you, of you. I'm going to show that you're in bed with the person you declared to be the worst of the worst in the country for so long, the demonic Nosferatu figure." And they literally used Nosferatu as a name for Mijalkov. I mean, it was us. We were mocking their demonization of Zaev. I don't remember anymore. But yeah, we were mocking Zaev's demonization of Mijalkov because, everything that would happen in the country had to be Mijalkov's fault. And now they're in bed together, obviously.
Well, again, that's all quite sad. I don't know how Macedonia's ever going to pull out of this. Got to remain hopeful. Yeah. Although I have to say, 2021 is not much better than 2020, if at all. Maybe it's worse at the rate we're going. Yeah. So, what else do we have to chat about on this 99th episode of the Macedonian Content Farmers Podcast? We'll save some of the. I know we there's the census coming up in April, which is going to be a mess. and all of the politics around that, the incoming Bidenopoulos administration, and Bulgaria, of course, the on-running issue there. Although it seems that the government, Zoran Zaev, has agreed to kind of wait until they have their elections in March before doing anything. I noticed that Slicknik, Nikola Dimitrov, who was the former foreign minister, is really kind of scarce on in the media, on Twitter, etc. these days. Do you have any idea where he is or what he's doing?
Well, he's the deputy prime minister for EU integration, so he might as well be in charge of our space program.
You have a space force
for
too?
the good that. Yeah, exactly. I mean, what is he to do? He's not such a glutton for punishment to be out in the public at this moment. The way things are going with our EU integration. Yeah, he just said, I mean, listen, we're not going to do anything with Bulgaria. We're going to put a lid on it until their elections end. And Zaev is just using other channels other than Dimitrov. And I assume he's just looking for a new job after being so successful in his current job. But you're right. He's noticeably absent from public eye, and given the way things are going, it's maybe the smartest thing
for him
to do.
I know Buchko, Vlado Buchkovsky, the special envoy, quote unquote. I don't know if that's his actual title. Was over in Bulgaria recently. There's of course the discussion that I think it's a 12-point annex that Karakachanov wants Macedonia to sign. Government denies it. Stevo Pendorovsky, the president, says there is none or hasn't been informed of it, which all points to the immense amount of openness and transparency in the Zaev government.
Zaev had one of the historians removed from the committee of historians and appointed an Albanian in his place, and this was one of the guys who's in charge of World War II period, which is becoming now the most contested period now with the way things are going, the way the debate is progressing. Bulgarians opened the issue of the Second World War and Tito. So this was the guy who was he criticized publicly Zaev for his Buganes interview, in which Zaev gave away everything, and now he's out, and an Albanian is in. An Albanian will not care for any changes to Macedonian identity or history. Zaev is still pushing to accept Bulgarian demands. He's still, determined to do this. And
the EU ambassadors, apparently, they had a meeting, I don't know if it was with Zaev or who was with the other day, basically saying that you really do need to accept the Bulgarian demands, because I think it was it was the Dutch ambassador, I believe, who said that other countries in their march to the EU have had to make really difficult decisions as well. So I don't know.
They're telling don't overthink this, just do it, and there will be other issues down the road. It's nothing. It's no big deal. This is the message. Keep talking to them. What are they to do? The alternative is to declare that the colored revolution, the regime change, is a complete disaster, and that instead of bringing about friendship and good neighborly relations, as is the title of the treaty Zaev signed with Borisov, we've never had this much angry comments between the two countries. They can't acknowledge their defeat and that they were pursuing a horrible policy. And the other alternative is just to have us in the European Economic Area and forget about everything else.
Right. Yes, I did see that. That was a couple of days ago. I saw that Stevo said that he would be open to that, but ultimately there is no alternative, quote unquote, to quote Zaev, to EU membership. Well, we'll see. And of course, I have my long-term doubts about the European Union itself as an entity, but as I've voiced and written about many times before. All right. Well, that's a good wrap for this podcast, I think. Anything else for the good of the order?
Yeah, I think people can say that they're not up to speed now with Macedonian events after enduring this with us for like almost 50 minutes.
I remember Thomas Indrikilvis, who is an acquaintance. I know him. He used to be the president of Estonia, and I've got a long relationship with Estonia. He said he just wanted Estonia to become another boring European country. And it pretty much is. Sure be nice to see Macedonia as just another boring European country without all of this crap going on. But, we'll see.
Yeah, he's got me blocked on Twitter.
Oh, Tom did? Oh.
Yeah, I don't remember what I tweeted at.
I stopped following him because he's actually a socialist.
Deserved.
But anyway.
Yeah.
All right. Well, next week we'll look at some of those things that we didn't get a chance to talk about, like the census and the Biden administration and what it holds for Macedonia and the region, etc. I got some good stuff on that.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, I think we'll sign off.